Guys, once you finish watching this video, head over to our NFRPlus channel to get another tier list with Anthony Fantano. It was a blast. We ranked rappers like Kanye West, Yeet, and much more. So if you guys want to check it out, check the link in the description and our pinned comment. And guys, we have more content coming out with Anthony Fantano in the near future. So enjoy this episode. And if you do, smash the like button, turn on the notification bell for future uploads, and smash the subscribe button if you are new to NFR Podcast. Enjoy. Welcome back to another tier list with NFR Podcast, but for today's episode, we have a very special guest with us. It's going to be Anthony Fantano once again. Welcome in, bro.
We're back.
We are back for a
and it
part
feels
two.
so good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the same location, too. This is pretty cool, man. Like,
Yeah.
I love Connecticut in the summertime. Last time we were here in November, it was kind of dark and gloomy. So now at least it's nice and sunny outside. Beautiful stuff going on, but 25 different rappers today, guys. We're going to be ranking them on our tier list from bad, mid, good, great, amazing, and perfect. Lou, let's start it off.
And the first rapper we have today is Eminem, one of the more interesting personas and I would say identities that we've had in the hip-hop sphere over the course of almost 30 years at this point. Has a vast catalog, and there's a lot of stinkers in that catalog. So immediately, I feel like we can go in the upper echelon of a perfect... Does he fit into the amazing?
But this is the funny thing, though, is that we did this tier list in like the last time.
Yeah.
I think in like 2022, I believe.
And we placed him in the amazing.
And we placed him in the amazing. So like, is he going below that for you, or is he going maybe in the perfect? Like, where are you putting him?
I would put him in amazing.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I think you have to account for his actual artistic output.
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like if we were only talking about technical ability here, we're talking in that perfect range, but we also have to take into account the content of what he says and the fact that over the years, like, you know, I mean, not even just talking about how some of his latest records are not that good. Some of his older material, while it is great, has not aged the best. You know, I was actually just listening to some songs from the Slim Shady LP the other day, and some of them still hit, some of them not as much.
Which one don't hit for you?
Hold on.
Come on, everybody, maybe?
Hold on a second.
Go through that
Can't
track
be that
list, because
one.
this is interesting. This is my favorite Eminem album.
I was going back to listening to the song about him having $1 million, and you know, I was kind of on a bit of a Slim Shady LP revisit as a result of that.
Rock Bottom?
No, Rock Bottom I still like. Role Model's a little edgy.
Oh,
you know,
come on.
it's
That's a classic, though.
it's super edgy though, and I, you know, I just don't give a fuck. You know, it's like sometimes those tracks are just, you know, okay, but still, you know, Bad Meets Evil still hits hard with
absolutely.
Royce. You know, also Come On Everybody. I mean, there's like some eye roll moments, you know, but it's
There
like,
is.
you know, but still, like, you know, Guilty Conscience is great. My name is great. There's still like a lot of great tracks on it.
There
you know,
is.
and the thing is, like, it still was super unique for the time, you know.
Absolutely.
And also, like, it's also interesting to sort of remind myself of like how much a lot of his older stuff just reminds me of like cartoons, because like he was so over the top with like every single bar where he was kind of saying something outlandish had to have a sound effect that went along with it, that, you know, that was usually coming out of his mouth. He's talking about an Uzi and he's like, you know, in the background.
It almost feels like you're reading a comic book when you're listening to his music.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
he
you
had
know,
that playfulness to him. He had the crudeness too.
Right.
But yeah, I just feel like right now, like the more modern Eminem is just not really great, bro. In terms of just track presence, in terms of delivery, his decision to sort of, I feel like, over-explain his bars. Like he'll spell out the crazy double entendre he might throw in, and it's like, okay, but we get it. Like you're a skilled lyricist, you know?
That, and sometimes it seems like he takes himself a little too seriously, while at the same time still like writing some supremely silly stuff, you know? And it's like he used to have that hunger, but also that lightheartedness about him, while simultaneously making some valid points, because at the time he was kind of, even with the Dre endorsement, was still kind of like an outsider and an underdog, because, you know, during that point in his career also, that, you know, I was reminded of, there were so many bars about like minimum wage and being freaking broke and like worrying about like where your next paycheck's coming from, or like, you know, struggling with moving up economically. And it's like, shit, you can't, there's no way you can rap about that anymore, or anything having to do with that. You know, it's like by the time he got to the Marshall Mathers LP, that, you know, all of those vibes and those sentiments were just like, you know, a dream and a thing of the past at that point.
All right.
Yeah. So
amazing
we're going
category?
amazing for Eminem.
Yeah, yes.
But next up, we have Travis Scott, who has a much smaller catalog. Definitely, I would say a pioneer when it comes to the trap scene. What are you guys feeling for Travis?
Well, this is interesting because we put him in the grade category last time too. So where are we moving? Are we going lower? Are we going higher? Like, especially with the output, his output has been really good over the years. He has never really missed on a studio album
His
as well.
mixtapes have been aging pretty well for the most part too, in my opinion.
I don't know. You know, I like, obviously I love Rodeo. I think Rodeo is a game-changing trap record. And I think, you know, Astroworld has some game-changing songs on it, but everything else for me is just kind of like, you know, either just okay or building up to a much more interesting moment.
So let's say like something like a Birds in the Trap, Sing McKnight. You got songs like The Ends on there. Let's say Coordinates, whatever the case may be. Like, why do you feel like that project, let's say, is less superior to a Rodeo or an Astroworld?
It just feels like a bunch of Rodeo afterthoughts to me, honestly.
Okay, that's interesting.
To me, that record doesn't really add that much to his musical narrative. You know, Astroworld felt like a level up. You know, it felt like that was such a grand record, and it felt like, you know, an extension and a growth past what he did on Rodeo. Whereas Rodeo had stronger songs, more interesting beat switches, a cooler set of features, in my opinion, as well, all around. You know, the thing about Astroworld that I think kind of kneecapped it a little bit is that, you know, in Travis's shot for grandiosity, it's a little bit of a bloated record. You know, it's not.
So what would you cut off that record then? That's interesting. That's
a bit of an L take. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay,
I mean, that was my main critique of it. You know, honestly, like I think as far as like pound for pound, even though Rodeo is a shorter record, I feel like it's a more condensed album in terms of like every track just freaking hitting.
Yeah.
You know, whereas on Astroworld you have moments like the freaking Nav feature that are just like it's just
Yosemite?
like, you know.
You see, he doesn't like that feature either, but I'm actually a big fan of that feature. I like Nav's performances time to time, but for the most part, I understand where you're coming from. But what are we saying with this final score?
Travis Scott, I would go great with Travis. I think that when it comes to like just the way he uses his voice and the vocal effects, the auto-tune, his use of it, the quality of projects, I'd go great.
I mean, I guess looking at the scale here, I could go good to great. You know,
it's great.
I would say great if I was thinking of just like kind of influence and impact and artistry in the modern era. But if I was thinking about just sort of like overall, I'm thinking of like what amazing or, you know, or what great 90s rappers I would probably put in that category. And would I actually put Travis to them toe to toe? But again, like the paradigms for artistry and influence in hip hop today are totally different than what they were in the 90s. So it's kind of like apples and oranges in a way. But, you know, I could say great.
All right, so Travis Scott is going into great. Lou, what do we have next?
Next up, we have Logic, who, in my opinion, has put out maybe not classic records, but amazing records. When you look at something like a No Pressure, when you look at something like an Incredible True Story, but to me, he's probably the most inconsistent rapper in the game. To me.
One of the most inconsistent in the mainstream. Yeah, for sure.
But you see, like, I do think he has a classic record, though. Like, how could you listen to Under Pressure and not say that like that's not a classic? You know, like you have some really.
It's really derivative.
Yeah. Oh, you think so? Oh.
I'm sorry, Bobby. I'm sorry, Bob. It's a derivative record. You know, I would say good though. You know, I think he has a moderate amount of talent. You know, when it comes to rapping and pen game, but like when it comes down to the messaging and the content of what he puts into his records, and also like, you know, the way he scales and sequences and conceptualizes his albums, while I do appreciate the ambition he brings to the table much of the time, I think that's often where he ends up kind of, you know, faltering, you know, and I mean, you know, I think that's exemplified in records like Supermarket, because like he gets so in on like whatever the grander idea here is, and gets so obsessed with that to the point where he kind of loses sight of whether or not the songs are actually good.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
He does do a lot of overcompensating when it does come to like his performances, let's say through different studio albums. But I do think technically, like he is up there for me in like new generation mainstream rappers where like there's very few people that are going to be able to touch the speeds at which he raps at, or let's say even the lyrical content matter. Take something like a Nicki, for example.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about like, you know, things like lyricism and, you know, technical ability in terms of
like
flow,
the purest stuff. Yeah.
Being at an all-time low in terms of standards, like Logic is a cut above of a lot of people who are in the mainstream right now, you know, even multiple cuts above like ASAP Rocky, but I would rather listen to a Rocky project.
That's true.
You know, with a Rocky project, the production is going to be more interesting. The bars are going to be catchier and vibier. I think the features list is going to probably be more adventurous because Rocky really kind of has his ear to the ground in terms of like different and alternative artists. Like, you know, he'll work with somebody like a Dean Blunt, for example. I don't even think Logic knows who the fuck Dean Blunt is.
That's interesting.
You know?
Or put you on his album, even for the vinyl days thing. That was
for sure. Yeah, exactly. L for me. Yeah, and then also rap about me too, and wanting to choke me to death. Whereas, you know, that as well. I'm never going to be choked to death on an ASAP Rocky record. So
that's true.
or, you know, or honestly, even if that was the case, I know the bar would be a lot colder. I'd be like, I'm going to choke out Fantano or some shit, and then have like a gunshot playing in the background. I don't fucking know.
That's good.
So
that's
funny. But yeah, I would say good. You know, the thing is, like, obviously there's only a handful of Logic records that I personally say I would enjoy. And there's a lot of stinkers in there, but at the same time, like I see his talent, I see his abilities, and you know, they can't be discounted.
Yeah. Even the Young Sinatra series were amazing. And like a lot of those older mixtapes, like, do hold very close to heart for me.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you say that he's derivative, just because I feel like he is like obviously a massive hip hop head. If it's him like interpolating the Elevator's hook from Outkast on No Pressure, or him sort of using a similar like storytelling structure on his songs on Under Pressure, for example. But like, what is it about like logically you find derivative on an album like Under Pressure, let's say? Like,
there's just so many things about his style and his flow that just feel like an offshoot of something else. And you know, and I've said this about his, you know, music and his output before. It just sort of seems like, you know, and look, all the credit to him in the world. And, you know, it's cool that he's successful and he made, you know, life for himself doing what he does.
Yeah.
But, you know, I feel like Logic is like a main character in a movie where the biggest hip hop fan in the world gets like one big wish to be a famous rap star. And, you know, I feel like that's kind of like the fantasy that he's living out. And we're all just like kind of, you know, orbiting around that in a way. So, you know, it's again, it like, you know, reminds me of the movie Blank Check, you know, from back in the day where, you know, some random kid gets a blank check and he writes himself a check for like millions of dollars. And he's just like a rich kid and he gets to live out his fantasies of doing that. But instead, Logic gets to be a famous rapper. And you sort of like hear not as much his artistry, but his fandom for the genre in everything that he does, because everything sort of like, you know, touches back, you know, in you know, is paying homage to something else.
Whether it's like the Wu-Tang Clan or even like Tribe Called Quest.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I kind of like that though. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I enjoy some of it.
It can be fun. It can be fun. And depending on how well he's doing it and what he's doing, I enjoy it too. I mean, that's what I thought was so cool about the Vinyl Days record.
But then you get something like, what was that? The alter ego that he had came out with after like he retired. That was like super derivative of like MF Doom.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that was like too on the money.
Right.
Like, come on.
And that's the thing. It's like, I think everybody obviously is borrowing from something. You know, every artist is borrowing from something. Everybody's stealing an idea from something else. But with Logic, sometimes it just feels too on the nose. You know, that combined with the fact that sometimes he's being on the nose as hell and the song isn't the best, you know?
Yeah.
So those combined end up kind of kneecapping, I think, the potential of a lot of his tracks. But he does make genuinely good and moving and inspirational songs too. And, you know, with Logic, I just feel like, you know, if you're going to be a fan or follow him, you just got to kind of take the good with the bad, I guess.
That is very true.
Okay,
right.
So Logic slots into the good. Next up, we have your boy, Drake. Sing on Drizzy Drake.
We had him where? Amazing last time?
We did put him in the Amazing.
We had him in
I don't know if that's going to fly this time.
I'm not sure.
I was like mid right away.
We're going to have to come to a compromise.
Yeah.
A compromise
middle
here.
ground must be found on this one.
Because I'm not saying he's got to land anywhere near the bad category, but you know, amazing. What was the logic for putting him in the amazing category last time?
I think it was just being able to like map out his overall skill set as a rapper and what he does bring to the table. So example for, let's say, Lou and I, like, we really enjoy his duality of a singer and rapper as well, and him finding that middle ground as a melodic rapper. And that was super inspirational for a bunch of new generation rappers coming through. He has classics, in our opinion, at least in his catalog as well. Groundbreaking records like a Take Care, Nothing Was the Same, in our opinion. Even something like If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. Also, just the, like, I know accessibility doesn't necessarily hold that much weight in a conversation when it comes down to quality, but for us, we do feel like, okay, you are going to get lyrical onslaughts like a Tuscan Leather, let's say, or even, I'm not sure, like let's say a No Tellin', for example, but he also has the ability to make those super catchy pop hits, like let's say a Passion Fruit, which sounds absolutely amazing. So it was more on like his chameleon factor, him being able to play in every single bag, and also kind of bring a new subgenre to the mainstream to a certain extent, because in our opinion, at least, like whether you like it or not, whenever Drake does touch something, it goes absolutely fucking crazy,
Not
and then like
that,
you see the influx of artists that try to attack that sound, and now you have a new developed market with it. So like that was kind of the reason.
Just add on to that.
It's true. But now that he's been at what he's been doing for as long as what he's been doing, like a lot of these things just kind of end up being dead ends, or, he just kind of like leaves a path of destruction behind him, where what was once hot, once he did a feature or endorsed it, is like now just like up shit's creek. Because how many people are doing dance hall tracks now? Where is Block Boy JB? You know what I mean?
That's
like,
true.
People aren't curious about these things anymore, because he just does it for a minute and then he just moves on.
Yeah.
Would there be a market in the US for, let's say, like UK drill if it wasn't for a Drake? You know what I mean? Like, I think like his ability to sort of take different subgenres within the hip hop landscape.
For sure, because he did dabble a little bit in that, but those tracks didn't hit that hard. The thing is, like, Pop Smoke tracks hit way harder in terms of like the drill sound and than anything that Drake did. And when Drake kind of dabbled in it for a minute, he moved on when it didn't become as big as like a One Dance, for example. You know what I mean? Or We're Going Home or something like that. He tries different things, and it's trial and error. And I think that's cool about him. He's willing to kind of just hop on or do anything. He sort of seems like he tries to make himself comfortable in whatever setting to give whatever a shot. I like that he's adventurous. I think that's, ultimately a positive thing. But it doesn't mean that everything he tries, though, ends up being gold.
No, and I think that you could go through almost every single Drake album and kind of like nitpick a certain song that you don't enjoy. But what I also do like is that, like, example, you go to something like, if you're reading this, It's Too Late, you will find mega bangers on there, like let's say Annoy Yourself or No
project from him.
Example, and then you'll get something like, let's say, a Jungle towards the end of the track list, where in my opinion, it's a fantastic R&B record and it sounds really good in the context of the project. So I also like that about him, is that the track lists, the way that they're formed, it's not necessarily always kind of like a perfectionist mindset. And it's more like you were saying, like, okay, let's try some shit out and make this cohesive to the point to where like I could be a chameleon in so many different bags and make this sound good. And I think that, like, you can have your criticisms of like Honestly Nevermind as of recently, and even CLB, the criticisms with Scorpion being bloated.
But that and also, Scorpion bloated. Also, the More Life playlist just has so many kind of odds and ends on it that aren't that interesting. The Dark Lane demo tapes, I think he's got kind of a little, lazy, like he's on autopilot and just doesn't really care about the quality over quantity,
but
game.
The thing with Dark Lane demo tapes that I did enjoy is that, like, that sort of like mellowed out, I would say, melancholic sort of Drake is really nice to listen to, especially like it's a late night drive sort of album where like you put on something like
a Drake and Drive.
Exactly.
We've heard of Drakes and Drives. We know.
The Drake and Driving, you put on
shout
something
out to
like
Los Pollos.
You put on something like a Deep Pockets, let's say, or even something like a From Florida with Love, or even, something like Not You Too with Chris Brown, and like that's incredible.
Yeah, and he's still experimenting with like lo-fi productions or like stuff like Plug and B on that record, which you wouldn't really hear all that often from other like Drake records. But again, that one was sort of billed as like, don't take this too seriously. It's just a bunch of loosies. And same thing with More Life as a playlist, where it's like, don't look at this and be harsh on it because I'm not putting all my effort into this. It's not a studio album. So he sort of like tried to, I would say, make us view his art differently depending what the project is. But
I think that's fair, though.
To come to Drake's defense a little bit, I just feel like looking upon him as like a legacy artist, you can argue that like side by side with a Nate Dogg, he's the best hook man in hip hop history. I think that when it comes to something like a versus battle, there's very few artists that could really go head to head. When you're looking at, let's say, maybe a Kanye West, a Wayne and Eminem, maybe they can compete, but he has all the hits, he has the hooks, he has classic records, but I do agree that as of late, it feels like there is a lack of inspiration. And when he is inspired to make something different, like an Honestly Nevermind, the results aren't that great.
Yeah, but like you even get something like his latest effort, Her Loss, like that's one of the best albums he's released.
But he's
in the
not
past
doing anything
5 years.
different on there, though.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean,
but,
like,
You know,
And
like
also,
he had better
like, a
trap
lot-
records and What a Time to Be Alive. In my
yeah, but you're
opinion.
like living in
I
2015.
think
at
a
that
lot
point,
of the pressure
you know?
to do better on that record also came with collaborating with 21 Savage.
Yeah, but
you
21
know?
Savage did take a bit of a back seat on that record, almost
he was a
like
bit-
having
he-
like
he
30% of the runtime.
But the thing is, like, I think he was still essential to Drake kind of like, going a bit harder on that album because he
That is
had to
true.
sort of match his more aggressive kind of grimy energy.
Yeah, but you
know?
do also get like those types of tracks like A Middle of the Ocean where he is getting introspective, or even like the creative decision.
He is,
of
but those are the
having-
moments where 21 Savage sounds out of fucking place because
Yeah.
he can't sort of vibe on that level in the way that Drake can.
No, for sure. But like then you get 21 Savage on like a 3 a.m. in Glenwood and it actually sounds good.
that was
But
all right.
I think it's solid though. Like I think it was a great album, but regardless though, where are you placing them? Is he going under? Like what
So
compromise?
you
with
said mid, right? Is that where you wanted to
No,
go?
I don't think I would go
Okay.
mid because I would land somewhere from mid to good. I guess like, here's the thing with me. Drake is obviously, a pioneer in a lot of respects in terms of like fusing together. I mean, he's changed the modern rap meta.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's the reason there's like this expectation that so many rappers fucking sing now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I mean, obviously there are examples of artists before him doing that, he was hugely influenced by Kanye West, clearly. But when Kanye originally did it, it didn't take. You know what I mean? It took for someone like Drake to come along later down the road and sort of like normalize it.
Lauryn
Yeah.
Hill, you could argue.
No, Lauryn Hill for
she
sure. But the
normalized
thing
it.
is, like, as a woman, she sort of inspired different artists and different vibes than Drake and Kanye did. It's like with Drake and Kanye, it's very much a kind of sad, depressed, in your feels kind of thing, and it's like this big, over the top kind of like display of emotion and heartache,
Like a Marvin's Room
and,
sort of
yeah,
feeling,
exactly,
yeah.
Marvin's Room type
Yeah.
shit. So look, he's revolutionized things in terms of like what rappers are expected to be and what they ought to be, and has normalized a lot of different fusions of hip hop and pop and R&B that sound totally unlike the types of fusions of hip hop and pop and R&B that were popular in the 2000s. You know what I mean? I think this is like really been, the 2010s were really kind of like Drake's decade, in terms of influence and cultural relevance. And as you guys, were saying, it seems like, at least in the mainstream anyway, anytime he would do or try something, everybody else was kind of like ambulance chasing on whatever that was to also make an attempt at it and, take a shot at it to see if they could have a hit with a similar sound or a similar vibe. That influence, does speak to an artistry. I think he had to be, perceptive enough to try those sounds and do those things. But like, does he have the best pen game out there? I don't think so.
He has a strong pen game, the lemon pepper freestyle.
But the thing is, like,
BB
we
King
don't know
freestyle?
we don't even know how much of that shit he even wrote
Writing himself.
at this
I
point.
get it.
Yeah,
you know?
but the thing,
and also on top of that, like, you can't also discount the fact that, like, yeah, he's made some stinky records lately, but he's also taken one of the biggest fucking L's in hip hop in the 2010s as well. Like, with Pusha T, which I think, like, I don't know, man. I think like when we're talking about sort of like, as you guys were kind of saying earlier, like, we're trying to take into account like all of these various aspects of him as a rapper and as an artist. And when you're talking about hip hop, like, your ability to, I mean, look, there's some artists out there who never beef.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, I would never sort of take into account whether or not they would be good in a beef when sort of making a list like this or saying, are they amazing? Are they perfect? Are they whatever? But for those artists who have beefed, you have to take that into account. How did they do in that beef?
But
and Drake has not done.
But he did
done
catch
well.
a massive dub, up against a Meek Mill, for example.
But
Like back to back is one of the best diss
Meek Mill
tracks
didn't
ever.
even put up a fight. Like,
didn't.
like
He
Meek
didn't.
Mill didn't even put up a fight. I love Back to Back. I think it's an amazing track. It's
Yeah.
a fantastic track. But like, I think Meek was way more capable of doing something better than what he actually did.
And I think Drake could have even came harder, like on a lyrical level and in terms of like the shots he was throwing. But it was just the idea of like turning back to back into a club banger. That was badass. Like that was pretty crazy to turn a diss track into a club banger the way that he did. So
yeah,
No, for
he
sure.
does. He does have the duds and the W's within that area, and I think that, like, yeah, you could bring it into this conversation. But okay, you want to maybe go around the good area. Let's say we want to go around the amazing area. Do we meet in the middle with great? Do we meet in the middle?
can't put himself through with this. Call Drake a great rapper.
we could be in the middle with great. We could be in
Okay,
the middle
fire.
with great because again, I think he has style, and he has hits, and he has anthems, and he has bangers, and I miss you know, in a lot of ways that Take Care and That Nothing Was the Same era when he was like, again, he was like really like on his anthem shit. You know, I just feel like he's not really in that pocket anymore. And now he's just, everything that he does, he wants it just to be a vibe, you know, it's just like, everything's got to be a vibe. Honestly, never mind. And so on. It's just like, you know, we're just vibing and vibing and vibing. It's like, where's the fucking bangers, you know? And again, I think her loss had some bangers on it, but, you know, unfortunately, you know, songs like Rich Flex, for example, people mostly just turn into a joke, you know, which I still think is a great track. But yeah, it would just be great to hear him just, you know, go a little bit harder these days, or kind of hear that, you know, like if you're reading this hunger in him once again, even if some people are kind of collaborating with him and helping him write some of the shit on it. I don't know.
That's very true.
All right. So Dre goes into the great, but to switch it up now, we have DaBaby, who has had, in my opinion, one of the biggest fall-offs that we've seen in recent years. Doesn't really have a single solid album going for him either.
Kirk is all right.
Kirk's cool.
Kirk is all right, but I mean, like you said, solid. Like, it's not that bad. Like, at least give him some sort of flowers, you know? Like, he's not like...
Yeah, it's just like, how many tracks are you revisiting? I mean, what do you have? You have Toes on there, you have Vibes, like, you have a couple of cool tracks, but as like an overall, like, solid album from start to finish that has... Well, I was going to say have a vision, but I don't think DaBaby really ever has a vision, right?
Oh, I mean, no. I mean, it was different for when he was coming up, like, especially, like, the amount of rappers that were coming through, like, in that trap lane. He did bring something new to the table, especially with the types of different flows he was using, the ad-libs,
you mean the same repetitive flow that he uses, like, on every track?
Yeah, because that's in 2023, and you've heard, like, 6 studio albums from him. I mean, like, going back then, like, you kind of have to put yourself in the context of the music. And listen, I'm not trying to put him in the amazing category. I'm just trying to say that there is something, you know, like, it's not a complete, like...
There's value to DaBaby, yeah.
There is something. I mean, like, especially in the pull-up music days, like, it was hard. Like, I was bumping it. You know, I'm not going to lie to you.
I never gravitated towards DaBaby, but how about you? How do you feel about DaBaby?
I would put him in the mid category.
Absolutely.
I mean, he had a few hit tracks, which led him to getting a lot of features. And look, he's got a standout voice. He does have character and he does have personality. But I feel like when he had all of that attention on him, he didn't, you know, use that as an opportunity to grow, switch things up, advance artistically in any way. On Kirk, you did have like a few introspective moments where you saw him kind of like getting into his own background in life and so on and so forth. But the record on the whole didn't really dig that far. It wasn't a massive project. And I just don't really feel like he's proven himself to be an albums artist for sure. And definitely not a versatile artist, you know, because while he has continued to make tracks, the itches that they scratch or attempt to scratch are much the same that he already kind of successfully did with older bangers that people have kind of, it's not even in rotation anymore.
That's very true.
You know what I mean? So, you know, he hasn't advanced, he hasn't evolved, he's not keeping up with the times.
And he can't even land a hit. I think his last hit was what, maybe 2020 with something like a rock star. I feel like that might have been the last one.
Maybe, I guess so. Know. Yeah, but listen, he's definitely taken a decline. I think the mid category is good for DaBaby. But Lou, let's continue this. Who do we have next?
We got Baby Keem next, who's definitely like one of the most exciting rising stars, I think, to follow at this point. And The Melodic Blue was one of my favorite records of 2021. I think that, you know, obviously he came in under the guise of being like, you know, Kendrick's cousin. And a lot of people thought that was maybe gonna, you know, put a sort of like shadow on his career. But he sort of stepped out as his own artist and has his own unique cadences. And I feel like what he brings to the table is vastly different from Kendrick.
Very unpredictable as well as an artist.
Super
and I like
vocally diverse as well.
Like, you go into a Baby Keem album and like you just don't know what to expect. And I think in 2023, that's so valuable because you go through a lot of artists. And like if you're on that release night, you could call the album just by looking at the track list. And you're like, I know what I'm going to be getting out of this. Baby Keem, for example, go into a track like a Trademark USA where you're getting 3 different beat switches and then he's matching the flows and cadences with those types of different production breaks and you're like, oh, this is fucking genius. Like, I really enjoy this. While I do think you do have like your mishaps on something like a Pink Panties, for example, where the flow gets a bit annoying and you're not necessarily engaged within the track, you do also get fantastic lyrical performances like a Scapegoats, for example, that also plays into the next album he's going to be releasing, which I'm hyped for this year. But all in all, I do think he still has some like work to do. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, I think he's relatively new.
I'm not sure if we could put him in the great category just because there hasn't been that much output. And like the mixtapes, I mean, Die For My Bitch is cool, but It's not like a revolutionary mixtape by any means.
It's great though. It's a nice album. Well, mixtape.
I'm feeling good on Baby Keem. What about you? What are you saying?
I feel like good is fine. If I was being uncharitable, I could say mid, but like only, but with the expectation that he's going to improve. You know what I mean? Sometimes with his songwriting, I'm on the fence, or the actual content of his tracks. I'm not like super crazy about like what he's getting to the heart of lyrically, if he's even trying to get to the heart of anything. But as you guys were saying, he has a lot of personality. He has a lot of unique inflections and flows, and he has this chaotic X factor that you just never know what the hell he's going to do. And these other things that, I was just kind of bringing up in terms of like, lyrical focus and what his music actually kind of gets to the heart of, that could really just kind of be an issue of like, maturity and just him needing to kind of grow and change as an artist. And, with him having someone like Kendrick Lamar in his camp and already showing himself to be pretty eccentric and pretty creative, that could really just only be a matter of time before he really kind of like hones in.
He's still so young. He has time to develop as well. Like, I think that even because I was referencing Scapegoats before, like he's going to be talking a bit more about his story on the new album, and that's maybe the expectations from the fans. But what I like about Baby Keem as well is that he has the ability to make so many different types of records, whether it be something like a Do-Rag Activity with Travis Scott, and then you get Lost Souls on the same one, or even like, a Boo Man, for example. Like, how do you make a soundscape that sounds coherent, but yet you go track for track and nothing sounds the same, And I really like that factor about him. So I'd go good with it. I think that's a fair rating with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we can all agree on good, but next up we have Post Malone. And this is interesting just because Post Malone's not really that much of a rapper anymore, so we kind of have to like trace back to the Beer Bongs and Bentley's era as well as the Stoney era.
Yeah, White Iverson type of vibes.
So yeah, speaking about Post Malone as a rapper, I don't think that, he's one of the strongest pop rappers out there. I feel like, when it came to creating his massive hits like a Rockstar, like a Money Made Me Do It off of Stoney, there was always that reliance on the feature. It's like, I always had that thought in the back of my head of like, would these records be as big, as large as they are without the assist?
Right. Or without the production carrying.
That too.
The thing at the end of the day, like, even when Post Malone was a rapper, it wasn't even really his rapping bringing people to the table. He's a hook writer. He writes hooks. He writes good choruses. He writes good, super catchy, super infectious choruses. Like, everybody remembers the chorus to Rockstar, but nobody remembers every single bar coming out of Post Malone's mouth. I mean, the flows are catchy, but it's really kind of the chorus that brings everybody to the yard. And, the thing is, I like the Beer Bongs and Bentley's record a lot, but my favorite tracks on that record, or some of my favorite tracks, were the ones that were just like kind of pop songs masquerading as like trap cuts because they have a trap beat in the background. Like Better Now is a pop song.
It is.
Better Now is not a rap song by any means or stretch of the imagination.
What are the true rap songs in that album? I think you have like Same Bitches.
Right.
That's one of them I can think of, but there's not many like pure hip hop tracks.
Yeah, but I think that was always kind of like his MO, was being able to like fuse the melodic, rap scene and bring it to like that sort of pop stats.
Right. He was able to kind of take his talents as a songwriter and as a pop artist, but aesthetically dress them in such a way to where it appealed to a hip hop audience or some, or your general audience of young music fans who enjoy trap music. And stuff
and he
like
always
that.
paired them up, let's say, with a trap artist, per se, like example, like Congratulations with Quavo, or as you were saying, Rockstar with 21 Savage. I feel like those features allowed him to play within that lane, and then the accessibility factor kind of opened up for the general hip hop audience. So as a rapper, I feel like it's kind of mid, to be honest with you. You know?
But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I agree with what you're saying. But, to the points we were making earlier with Drake, we weren't just kind of taking into account, his abilities as a rapper when sort of rating him in the way that we did. We're also taking into account like, well, he's also a singer and he also does this and he also does that.
That's
so
true.
It's like, would it be fair to just kind of judge Post Malone purely by his rapping ability?
So we'll break it down then. Okay, so let's say
because to his credit, he is versatile.
He is.
I just feel like he has kind of a different, appeal. I mean, Drake, for as many issues as I have with him, I definitely would not question his validity as a rapper, but Post Malone, just he feels like he barely fits into that category.
Yeah, like he kind of plays in and out of it, to a certain extent.
I just feel like Drake has way more range. Like as an MC, I think when you're looking at like topically, Drake covers way more ground. I think the arsenal of flows, of cadences,
No, for sure.
production styles, I think Drake is leaps and bounds ahead of Post Malone.
Yeah, as a rapper,
as a
absolutely.
rapper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We could say mid. You know,
We go mid,
Would you
yeah.
have gotten good if it was up to you?
No, because honestly, at the end of the day, like I feel like his catalog doesn't hold up all that much either.
It does.
Exactly.
it's
Like Hollywood's
Beer
bleeding
Bong-
fell
Beer-
flat.
Exactly. Like since Beer Bongs, everything has been. But maybe this new kind of singer-songwriter record will revitalize things a little bit.
That could be good.
but
Like
who knows?
I kind of want to see him kind of go all the way with that, because I do feel like, as you were saying, the
it
catchy
seems like where he's
choruses.
most natural.
Exactly. And it feels like it plays close to home for him. And
Right.
like, even if he does bring in like a rock influence to the album, then that could maybe be a good place for him to strive and have it go through. But
Yeah, because
I
I
think,
agree. Like some of his like best stuff to me is like the raw acoustic stuff, like a Feeling Whitney, for example, where he's really showcasing his vocal chops. But okay, so Post Malone goes into the mid. I think we can agree on that. Next up, we have Ice Spice, who's been the talk of the town, we could
Right.
say, as of
Right.
late. I mean, who doesn't want a fucking Ice Spice feature at this point? And I think she's a bit harder for us to grade just because, I mean, all she has out is an EP and a couple of singles for the
Right.
most part. And I'll be honest with you guys, like, I know there's a lot of hype around Ice Spice right now. I think that there's definitely an appeal to her sound. Obviously, like, I'm not the fucking target audience for an Ice Spice, so maybe that plays a factor
we need
into
an
this.
Annabelle
but
in this type of conversation. That Annabelle should have been here to be able to like,
but
speak about her.
I just think looking at Ice Spice and what she offers, you have like that Bronx drill flow, you have a lot of the same style production, and it's just she's been sort of one-dimensional for the most part, besides her being able to play alongside like a Pink Pantheress, which was impressive.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is that it's going to take some time to like see that, though.
It will.
She doesn't even have a debut out right now. Everything that she has released has been like 2-minute bangers that have done super well in short form content.
Right.
Everything that we have seen thus far has hit, bro. Like she's making
She just
hits.
has, again, a singular flow to me that she just
Yeah, but
keeps-
dude, like how many songs does she have out right now? I think it's like 14.
probably like 15 songs. something
Yeah, like
that.
you still
Yeah.
need time. I mean, like it's hard to like grade it at face value, but we were speaking about this, I believe, on our episode in 2022 when like we were talking about up and coming rappers, and like Lou was on the fence about her because he didn't know like what was going to happen with the one-dimensional factor. But I do think she's going to strive. Like I think I need to just see like a debut studio album before
We're
like
talking about what is. We're talking about right now, based on the music that we have that's been released.
Yeah, for me, this is kind of similar to the Baby Keem situation. Again, if I was being uncharitable, I would just say mid, but with the hopeful expectation that it would go up from there, because she hasn't really had the opportunity yet to show us
exactly.
fully everything that she can do. And, with her being so young, you would assume that she's going to hopefully grow as an artist from here. I mean, while she does have that, singular flow from like what we've heard so far, with every time she does a feature, she makes herself comfortable wherever she's at and with whatever she's doing. And again, that Pink Pantheress feature does freaking hit.
It does.
And she does have, at least the versatility and ability to make herself make sense within whatever she does. I mean, the Taylor Swift feature that she just did didn't blow me away or anything, but it fit the song.
Yeah, like she's able to wear different hats, and I think that like especially for like that New York drill scene, she does it well. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, like you listen to a lot of New York drill artists, and like yes, okay, like it's a prominent scene and there is quality within there, but I like how she's approaching it to where like she could take that sound and she could apply it to so many different types of productions and artists, right?
She's most likely going to continue to drift away from that, though. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's like,
absolutely. And you want to see that though as a listener, right?
because at this point she has such a huge pop crossover appeal. She's not going to come out with her debut and just like make it the grimiest fucking New York drill record of all time. You know what I mean?
it wouldn't be
like,
smart. That's
like
for sure.
she's, that would just kneecap her, mainstream
absolutely.
potential. And I think that's mostly what she's focused on right now.
Absolutely.
Is it as much as like, obviously a lot of her sound and style comes from drill music. Like obviously when you look at the content of her music, only in very slight ways is it drill influenced. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
most rappers are, in the drill scene aren't talking about how much they love to fucking give oral sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, she's using kind of that sound and that vibe to just rap about stuff that is relevant to her.
Yeah.
And, I think those kinds of beats and those kinds of sounds, could continue to remain relevant to her catalog because that's, what her flow that we know her to have sounds good over. But I have a feeling that in time with, tracks like this Taylor Swift thing happening and the Pink Pantheress song doing as well as it was. We're going to hear her over a wider variety of beats.
Maybe even her diving into singing at a certain point as well. Who knows?
I don't know. I think her voice. Sure. I don't think she's got that.
That's the thing.
You never know
until
she tries it. Though,
I also feel like she just.
But her voice just seems so like whispery and raspy. You think she's got
and that's
some
the thing
pipes
too is
in there?
I don't feel like she's like the most expressive vocalist either.
Right,
like even looking at like her ad libs, like it's so monotone to a point where it's like gra.
And
you know what I mean?
It's like my favorite's the damn.
The damn one.
There's the there's the gra, and there's the damn. I gravitate toward the damn.
Nothing like vocal lessons can't do to you. That's another thing. Like, who knows if she's working on her vocals and like actually trying to play there. And I think it would be like a big misfortune if she doesn't try to at least attempt something within that lane. Like, it's worked well for so many different artists. Like,
it's true, but the thing is, like, and maybe this is like expecting too much, but she could easily end up on like an ASAP Rocky type trajectory where, she mostly sticks to her usual vocal style or flow style or rap style, but she makes really creative choices on the production end, on the feature end. And she's just like working with really good people and really good producers and, making songs with good choruses, which can do a lot to close the gap if when you approach the mic, you're not writing the best shit or you're mostly rapping much of the same way that, you have before. And, so far, she's surrounding herself with good people and making good moves in terms of who she wants to affiliate with and who she wants to collaborate with. So I don't know, it's I think there's a variety of ways in which she could grow and end up putting out some more great and very good music and relevant music that wouldn't necessarily involve her or necessitate her, like, becoming as skilled a lyricist as like Nicki Minaj or something like that.
That's very true. So listen, I think the good category is pretty good for this one.
I would have gone mid, but if you guys are both leaning towards good,
I would say mid, but with the expectation she's going to grow from here.
So we agree for the mid right now.
Yeah, like it's kind of mid potential territory because there's so little that we know at this point.
That's very true. All right,
it's like mid in terms of what she's shown us.
Exactly.
But she's probably going to grow from here.
Oh, she will.
I agree with that. Okay, so she goes into the mid. So we got two more rappers. Next up, we have Mos Def, who is, in my opinion, one of the greatest to ever do it. Although he does have that limited catalog and sort of, I would say, in the last decade or so, hasn't really focused that much on his rapping career. Besides the latest Black Star album that we got with No Fear of Time, with those crazy Madlib beats that I really enjoyed. I think Mos Def has to go in those two upper echelon tiers of either amazing or perfect.
I would say amazing. I think amazing in terms of his lyrical focus, his personality, his writing ability, his versatility. But unfortunately, I feel like over the years, he just hasn't had the kind of impact that he could have or should have, just with kind of being more on that backpack rapper track, which is what everybody used to refer to that shit as when I was in college. But yeah, I think he's obviously got classics. He's got some of my favorite hip hop records of all time in his catalog. But I think his potential for spread and influence isn't quite there, and that's also partially been kneecapped by his own doing because his output isn't as strong as it could have been if he kept going, and kind of stayed consistent with it. But at one point, by his own choice, and I understand, the music industry sucks and, kind of seeing the art that you want to make not get the kind of reception that you want it to can be really disheartening. But at one point he just kind of decided to stop and focus on other things and focus on himself. And, that could be good for his own mental health, and everything. And obviously he's been kind of prioritizing that in the same way that, guys like Andre 3000 have. I think like eccentrics like that, have a hard time kind of continuing to function through the music industry, especially during that era, because everything, even with the relative amount of commercial success that they both saw, can be kind of soul sucking, to kind of navigate those through ways to actually get like a song out that you are passionate about and that you care about and you think is actually good, but actually manages to be a hit as well.
I will give this to Mos Def though. Like if it was, let's say, a tier list for like technical ability, you could make the argument that he's in that perfect echelon. Like when it comes down to him and his flows and like the streams of consciousness and the song concepts, even his output, like in the earlier stages of his career, were legendary. Like you have so many classics.
Yeah, I would say like besides the rock album, what was that one called? The New Danger, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
you could put him in that perfect category, but I do agree that there are certain things that you could say that, oh, okay, like let's put this into the amazing, you know?
Yeah, but he still has like all-time fucking great, hip hop classics. When you look at The Definition, when you look at like Umi Says, when you look at Miss Fat Booty, certain cuts off of The Ecstatic as well, which is close to a masterpiece of an album. I think Mos Def just has this unique essence to bring spirituality and his own philosophies into his records in a really thought-provoking and intelligent manner. And I think that any time that he steps on the mic, even though those moments are rare occurrences, something like hearing him on, let's say, Stars off of the Forever Story, or hearing him off the latest Westside Gunn record, your ear is always really just stuck to every word. You know what I mean? Like, he has that ability to really keep you captivated with every single word that he says, and that's because of his vast vocabulary and just his essence as an MC. So
yeah,
I think
he comes from an era. He comes from an era where the goal was to get you to think about every line coming out of his mouth. You know what I mean? Actually think about it. Not just have it kind of go by passively and just have it on in the background because it kind of sounds cool. You know? Like he actually forces you to process the things that he's saying.
And that's true, and I think that's super valuable, especially from someone like Mos Def. He has so much game to kick, and also like super involved with his own spirituality and like his own progression as a human being, and like that hiatus that he ended up taking. Like, I feel that created for good content matter as his career ended up progressing after. Like, example, when he did release an album or when he was on a feature, like it was always an extra value where like, fuck, I'm super down to listen to this Mos Def verse, and I want to be invested into his career once again. And I think he also has a nice mystique around them. But let's keep going with the tier list.
Yeah, so Mos Def goes into the amazing, but next up we have Denzel Curry. And I think that, when it comes to Denzel, he's an artist that is already, considered a legend when it comes to Florida hip hop. I think that when it comes to Denzel, he's an artist that we're seeing this consistent evolution from, which has been really interesting to me. I mean, starting off with the Raiders Clan all the way to him getting to this point where he sort of made his own like Soulquarians album with Mama I See Your Future, where he's bringing these streams of consciousness to its highest peak from a lyrical standpoint. I've just been amazed by everything that he does. Does he have any, real duds in terms of his output? Not really.
Yeah, even his earlier
Even
stuff.
Nostalgic 64 was pretty good to me.
Yeah, I think that little EP combo that he had not too long after that was just kind of okay, but everything else has been like fire.
Absolutely. Even Unlocked with Kenny Beats was crazy. Zoo, which was more of a freestyle album, was really nice to me as well.
Yeah, there was a lot of
the
bangers
energy
on that record.
Example, like a Speedboat, for example.
Wish.
You had a lot of stuff on there. Melt My Eyes See Your Future was my favorite rap album from last year. I had a number 1 on my list for my 2022 list. I think Denzel's amazing, bro. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, as an artist, he could do so much.
Even if he just kept putting out records like Imperial, he would be a great artist. But on top of that, like he has, between Taboo and between his latest one, he's got those concept albums too, and Unlocked as well. He's got like those really good concept albums, and it's rare that you get that in an artist who is like putting out bangers, has great lyrical content, but on top of it can actually like craft an idea, a bigger picture sort of record, and actually execute it in a way where it's like entertaining from front to back, and the songs all kind of reinforce each other as like an overall piece of art.
And one thing I feel like he does deserve more credit on is also his versatility, as a rapper.
Oh yeah, he's a top 5 most versatile artist.
You look at what he's doing, example, like even with some screamo rap cuts that he has within his discography, or even some more
Rage Against the Machine cover. And
exactly.
Especially with like his new record. He's switching it up with every he's clearly evolving every few releases or so.
Absolutely.
Also, the whole Didn't You Know cover from Erykah Badu, singing was pretty cool on there as well. So.
Yeah, like the live jazz cafe cuts that he's been doing as well, where he's more of in his softer bag, and now he's trying to go into that lane. He also said that he's going to be releasing an R&B album very soon. It gets you excited, like which artist can make an album like Taboo, and then you could get invested into their R&B stuff as well, and it sounds equally as good, and then it intrigues you to go into the next one. That's why I think he's an amazing artist.
Yeah, I would put him in amazing, and I would even say that like he has potential to even grow out of that category. What I mean?
That's interesting.
Just as we were saying about Baby Keem and Ice Spice earlier, like while Denzel, yes, amazing is obviously a great place that you want to land as an artist, but I think with him still being relatively young and showing at this point that he's still willing to take risks and do different stuff. I think we're, kind of yet to even fully understand him as an artist, because he's still, I think, getting an understanding of himself.
That's very true.
And he's kind of putting it all out there for us to kind of hear and experience along with him.
Yeah, and it's just cool to see that he hasn't like reached that peak yet, and I think that he could go down as an all-time great potentially. So
absolutely,
we'll have to see what ends up happening. But next up, we have Nav, who we spoke briefly about before when it came to the Yosemite feature. This is what's interesting about Nav, is that we're actually big fans of his self-titled album. Everything since then has been trash for the most part, but
Perfect Timing was decent though.
Perfect Timing with Metro Boomin was not bad.
Perfect Timing was decent. Bad. You have your cuts off of there, and I think that like even Nav as a producer, like when you listen to like his curation throughout an album, like usually, especially in the earlier stuff, the production's fucking fire. Like you go to a song like Up or Myself or whatever else he was releasing.
Yeah, they're like good trap beats. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They're not like crazy.
But I mean, like he gets a bad rap because, as you were saying, you do have those like bad habits. That's not a great album. That's definitely not something in my rotation at this point, or even his most recent
Demons Protected by Angels.
That wasn't a great album as well. But I'm gonna shift the conversation to you now. How do you feel about his artistry as a whole?
I would say bad. I can't.
Is he like the worst rapper of all time?
No. The thing is, like, I feel like if you're really gonna be the worst rapper of all time, I think like. I think his content would have to be worse. I guess what makes him in the bad category for me is that his content is just so supremely uninspired. I just feel like it's a lack of anything interesting to hear or listen to in any way whatsoever. I think he, has shown himself to be, in terms of beat choice, and also when we do rarely hear his production, competent on the production end. And his records are mixed and engineered relatively well as well. It's not like when you listen to it, it's like a bunch of lo-fi garbage that sounds like a total mess. It's like, it's well put together, but outside of that, it just feels so soulless and, uninteresting and just uninspired and, just a super basic, I guess, painfully basic. And I just don't really see what's so exciting about anything that he does, especially in such a saturated world of music when you could literally be listening to anything. You know? I just feel like there's so much more. How do you feel about
self-titled though?
Like it's just okay. It's just okay.
You give it the okay. So we're big fans of that.
All the passionless robot vocals just do not do anything for me. There's nothing about him vocally that jumps out to me in any way.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the more robotic sounding
and I guess like as a songwriter, I just feel like he's kind of okay too.
Yeah, it's like how many times you're going to go through like the whole rags to riches story, you know what I mean? Like that's the deepest that he'll sort of go.
Right.
And it stopped becoming interesting for me at this point.
And also obviously, sometimes he'll deal in things like, his feelings and depression and addiction and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, there's no shortage of that type of content out there these days. A lot of rappers are reflecting on exactly that and doing it in such a way where they're coming across more passionate and compelling, and you actually kind of like, feel what they're going through in that respect, like Juice WRLD, for example. There's just nothing about what Nav does that stands out to me as like stand out. That there's in the grander scheme of rappers today and beyond today, there's not anything that I feel like he specifically does well that I would go to him specifically for.
Okay. That's interesting. So listen, I think we were going to go mid with it, but ultimately, like, you budged for us last time with Drake. We'll end up, I think we'll budge for you.
We can budge and go down to bad with Nav. So Nav is the first bad rapper on the tier list. Let's keep on going, though. The next rapper that we have is going to be Saba. And I think that your community was obviously affected by your take on Care For Me, which to me is one of the best albums of 2018. So where do you stand with Saba overall? Like, I think you scored his latest record a bit higher, right?
Yeah. No, I think he's a decent to good artist. I think with that, I think with Care For Me, and I've talked about this with other people since, the thing is, like, obviously there are songs on there that are very impressively high concept, but as like a lyricist and as a rapper, sometimes his execution just felt like a little too amateur for me.
On which songs did you feel like that was a prominent case, let's say with Care For Me? Was an example like something like Calligraphy?
Calligraphy is genius.
Or example, let's say something like Prom King. Like, where did you find those blemishes within that 2018 album?
Again, just sometimes it felt like he just came across to me as a very inexperienced rapper, you know, in terms of just like his voice, his presence on the mic, his breath control sometimes. Like, it just seemed like he was, you know, while he had great ideas,
he was too eager.
His execution wasn't as sort of professional or as tight as even someone like Kendrick was when he first came on to the, well, you know, the thing is from, you know, Kendrick's debut tape to Section 80, you can hear a vast difference in terms of like his rapping ability.
Yeah, like if you go to Overly Dedicated and your songs like Michael Jordan, for example, like you'll find a clear difference between that and something like an ADHD, for example. But you see, I like that about Saba though, because what I at least grab out of his music is that personal relatability factor and like the way that he's kind of like rapping in front of you to a certain extent. And I feel like there's very few rappers that are able to do that and actually make a good concept record out of it. So I do give him points for that. I really do enjoy his, his songwriting, for example, on something like a Prom King, where you're going through the writing and you're just amazed at how every single bar interconnects with each other and how the story's flowing. And I do enjoy him on that end. But example, you know, going to his latest record, like where do you feel like he leveled up and where do you feel like he's taking it next?
I feel like the tunes were stronger and, you know, the execution and presentation overall was cleaner.
Okay, interesting.
I realized that maybe on the record, and this is maybe a bit of a trade-off, you know, you didn't have songs that were as big or as conceptual as Prom King. You know, there wasn't anything on that record that maybe was as devastating as that song, you know, in terms of like the content on it. But overall, I thought, you know, the songs were just a little better put together. And it just felt like a little less amateur.
Okay.
You know?
Interesting.
So, I mean, you know, I think it just kind of comes down to preference at the end of the day. Because, you know, I could see if when you listen to, you know, Care For Me, if the fact that he seems so green behind the ears on that record doesn't really bug you in any way whatsoever. And look, there's some people that don't really give a shit about how amateur Odd Future's early stuff sounded. You know what I mean? To me, some of that stuff was like so sloppy and so messy that I just couldn't really get too much out of it.
And get into it,
yeah. Even if it was legitimately like, you know, alternative to a lot of the stuff that was going on in the mainstream. But, you know, with that being said, if that doesn't factor as much for you, then of course, like, you know, the more conceptual and sort of narrative-based tracks off that record are going to blow you away. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? To me, the follow-up was a lot more cleanly, you know, put together. And I feel like, you know, on that end, it just seemed more well assembled. And he seemed a little bit more, you know, kind of focused as a songwriter, even if the songs overall weren't as kind of narrative or conceptual or, you know, like trying to kind of, you know, rock you emotionally.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just as I feel like for me, Care For Me was the more cohesive album in terms of like him working through his trauma and him even having refreshing like concept songs, something like a Broken Girls, for example. That sort of takes the same thematic ground that United in Grief by Kendrick does in terms of sort of like finding love with someone who's broken and who has a fragmented soul or whatever it is. But I think overall Care For Me was cohesive. I think the songwriting, the melodies, the hooks were all up to par. So it's interesting you have that take.
It is interesting. So where are we going with this? Because I would
go great for Saba.
I would go great with it as well.
You would go down to mid or good? What would you say?
Probably good to great. Yeah. I mean, and again, I think he's also an artist too. He's still at a relatively young part.
Yeah,
you know,
he's super young.
He's still at a relatively early part of what we hope is going to be a long career as well. You know, I mean, I think if with the improvements on, you know, his vocal performance and, you know, some of the smoother production choices he was making on his last record, combine that with the conceptuality of, you know, Care For Me, you know, if he's able to sort of like, you know, nail that balance on a forthcoming album, he could be coming out with something that would blow everything he's come out with up until this point out of the water.
Absolutely. I think, if he finds that middle ground, like you're saying, then it could make for an incredible studio album experience. But I think ultimately we're going to go great with it.
Yeah, we're going to go great with Saba.
Great's fine.
Okay, let's keep going with this.
Next up, we have Westside Gunn, all right, taking it to a bit more of the underground. I mean, obviously the father of Griselda Records, someone that has been able to, for the most part, put out a lot of records, but also maintain that quality. When it comes to Westside Gunn, though, how are you guys feeling in terms of
like
rating?
his unique cadence and flow, if I'm being completely honest with you. Like, you could kind of attribute it back to something like a Ghostface Killah sort of like cadence.
Absolutely.
And you definitely hear the influence. Even someone like an Action Bronson like plays really close to home on that. And I've always really enjoyed that type of gritty style, and especially him being from Buffalo and kind of playing also into like the New York City scene was really nice. And I had the chance actually to do a discography dive for Westside Gunn, over the past week, and going back to example records like Fly God from 2016 and going to songs like 50 Inch Zenith with Sky Zoo. You're realizing that, yes, Westside Gunn has a unique cadence and he brings a lot of style and substance, but lyrically, he's always able to match and par up with some of the best lyricists in the game, whether it be a Conway the Machine, whether it be someone like a Sky Zoo, and I feel like that is definitely a factor and a plus for me. Not only that, but I think when it comes to curation and albums and putting like this cast of different rappers together, there's no one else that does them like him as well. And his ear for production and, beat selections as well throughout every single one of his albums is always fucking flawless. Like, he's always bringing something unique to the table. So I would ultimately go great, if I'm being honest with you.
I would go, I think good to great is sort of a fair range for Westside Gunn. I mean, in terms of like just how much personality he brings on to the mic. His ad-libs are fucking iconic at this point. His voice also is so distinct and so different from anybody else that you'll hear in the rap game right now. Like, just like that high pitch sort of like frequency that he hits has always been captivating to me, just because it sort of sounds like a kid screaming in a playground, but he does it to a point where there's a lot of like interesting little ad-libs or interesting little expressions that are thrown in there. I think Westside Gunn could slot into the great.
And this is what's really cool about his music as well that I was just picking up upon. Like, if you go back to the early 2010s, something that Joey Badass did with 1999 was kind of bring back that golden age of boom bap, right? And bring it back into sort of a mainstream market, if you want to say that. And I feel like he kind of did the same thing with Griselda. Where
sort of like the mainstream of the underground.
Exactly. Like, if you listen to like a lot of like old Aftermath records, or even like a lot of stuff that was coming from the Wu, you definitely hear that influence. And to be able to do that in a 2023, climate where, you're getting artists dropping every single like practically month, and you're getting everyone kind of in the mix, that's hard to maintain. And the fact that he was able to orchestrate all of that with adding his own rapping on top of everything is super impressive in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So,
for me, I'd probably put him in the good category. I see him as, like an architect. I see him as a curator, more than a rapper per se. I feel like he raps mostly out of just like kind of necessity, because what he aspires to and what he wants to achieve almost like requires him to do it. While in what he does, I hear a lot of influence from, artists like Ghostface Killah or Jadakiss, something like that. Would I put him on the same level as them lyrically in any way? No. I think he has bars, but his flows are not as versatile as they could be. And, at this point, could I ever see him coming out with a song as conceptual or as, like deeply cutting as a Conway song such as Stressed? Probably not,
No, for sure.
Again, I feel like he's more of a director type. And I see him as somebody who is
kind of the glue to everything.
Just a fan of different vibes and sounds, much in the same way that like A$AP Rocky is, or like, Logic is, but he's able to kind of orient all of his, preferred sounds and aesthetics and ideas and kind of drape them in such a way where it's like, it's street, but it also comes off as like high art and high fashion and high this and high that. And that's a talent, having the ability to direct things in that way is most definitely a talent. And, being able to curate and guide and, sort of like bring the audience to certain sounds and certain ideas and certain vibes, it can be, really valuable. That's what people like Dr. Dre do. That's what people like Rick Rubin do, so, it's something in his skill set, because the thing is like, if, you could be the greatest. Look, there are a lot of amazing spitters out there, and you could hear them and see them, anytime that you want when you go on some of these freaking, battle rap YouTube channels.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is like these guys, while they may be great lyricists and they can say the hottest, funniest, most clever shit you've ever heard, they have no ear for beats. They don't know how to write a song. You know, it's like there's tons of fucking shit they just do not have the talent for.
And they don't have that multi-dimension factor to them where they're able to play in so many different areas and kind of put it all together. And like, that's what I do enjoy about Westside Gunn is that he's not particularly like perfect at anything, but like he's kind of like the Swiss Army knife to where like he could play everywhere and like he's the glue to that whole collective and kind of the genius and the moving director. And that's very rare to find in hip hop nowadays, to be quite honest with you. So I would go good.
I think as a rapper, I think good is definitely fair for Westside Gunn. Let's wrap this up with one more rapper. Let's do Little Simz to end things off. And at this point, like I don't even think it's much of a conversation. I think she needs to slot into the amazing. She's put out, in my opinion, one of the best 3 album runs that we've seen in recent time, from Gray Area all the way to No Thank You. I've been amazed by her lyrical ability. I've been amazed by her transitioning, going into more singing type records on something like Simbi. And to me, like, I think she's going to leave like no stone unturned by the time it's all said and done. But how do you feel about Simz right now, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, even No Thank You. I mean, clearly a lot of the cuts on that thing were just like leftovers from Simbi, but even they were great. You know, it's like even her cutting room floor stuff is fantastic and entertaining. I mean, I've been, you know, saying her stuff has been great for a while. You know, I think she had amazing bangers on her debut, though I think overall it was like a little scant and it didn't really kind of dig that deep. You know, it just kind of seemed like just a handful of, you know, different songs that could have been assembled in any number of ways and you would have got mostly the same experience. With that, you had the follow-up record that was much more kind of string oriented and conceptual. But as you know, as we've been talking about in regards to some of these artists, you know, sometimes you have like a really big concept in mind, but the songs are just okay, or the execution isn't fully there, you know, and it's
and
like,
that's what I find she does really well. For example, you go to something like Sometimes I Might Be Introvert and you're finding hints of like Afrobeat within there and R&B and then pure hip hop and grime as well.
Well, with that record, that's where I feel like she really kind of nailed down her ability to kind of curate a concept album.
Exactly.
You know, because obviously before that you had Gray Area, but that shit was a lot like her debut. It was just like really direct, really blunt, really raw, really in your face, no frills, you know, everything you needed, nothing you don't. And then the follow-up record is sort of like so over the top and grand. And I have, you know, a suspicion that like, you know, she's gone back into a space where she's kind of like, you know, kind of rolled things back a little bit with No Thank You and given us like, you know, a really good project, a solid project to hold us over. And then she's going to kind of go for it again.
A big concept
record following this, you know, because it seems like she's almost on this pattern of like, you know, here's a bunch of tracks to vibe to. They're good. There's some bangers in there. Let's have a big statement. Now we're going to draw it back to something more hard hitting and direct. Then we're going to have a big statement. And then once again, we've kind of drawn it back to a bunch of cuts that, you know, are really direct and hit hard. And then maybe she's going to try to, you know, do another death defying jump.
Exactly.
You know, once more.
And I also think that like working with Inflow has done wonders for her because if you pay attention to the types of soundscapes that she's producing, they're so unique for the hip hop soundscape, especially like
because you're not getting that much live instrumentation for most hip hop like soundscapes at this point.
Not only that, but you're getting full orchestral pieces. Like you're getting these beautiful instrumentals from start to finish. Like there's not a mishap on any single track within those albums. And just to be able to see her play also within the UK grime and play close to home to where she's from and bring that into a North American market and have it strive there is super cool as well. I think she's going to be one of the best rappers if she is already not right now in the game right now. And I would go amazing with Simz. Like she has the ability, like Denzel Curry, to rank up to a perfect as well, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, no, in my opinion too. I think she's, you know, she's doing incredible stuff. And she's just, as you were kind of saying, she's like done so great in terms of being able to build a cross-cultural audience when, you know, UK artists and rappers don't really get taken seriously over here unless they get some kind of mainstream attention.
Like a Dave, for
example.
Yeah,
really exactly. Like a Dave or a little
but the thing is like she's still maintained a pretty, you know, underground operation with what she does. You know,
and there's that sentiment to it to where like she's like the mainstream of the underground and like she's in this perfect middle point at this point. So amazing. I think we could wrap it up with amazing.
Yeah, amazing for Little Simz. But I think that's going to wrap up the tier list for today, guys. Definitely some interesting selections. Maybe the next time we do this, Ice Spice might creep into the perfect. We'll have to see what ends up happening in some years from now. But hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And of course, if you guys are not subbed to Fantano's channel already and you're a music fan, probably living under a rock
You should,
at
you
this
should be
point.
subbed.
You should definitely be
Even
subbed.
if you hate me. At this point, anybody not subbed to me just hates me.
Absolutely.
Which, even if you hate me, you should be subbed. Like, come on.
Go sub to Anthony Fantano, for fuck's sakes. I mean, listen, if you're sub to us, you definitely have to be in tune with Anthony Fantano. Thank you so much for the tier list, bro. This is a pleasure, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace, guys.